We had a little Sabota lark demonstrating for us the amazing repertoire of calls that he had. So much so it actually confused me for a bit. I had to pick up my binoculars just to make sure it was the right bird, because I thought from the calls I was making it was one of our, what you call them, Cameropteras. But he's gone now, and this is a good morning from Tandatula Surf Safari team. We are heading out again. Had a bit of a miserable day yesterday, a lot of wind, 6 mils of rain, just what the bush needed now, settle the dust, but we are now officially in lockdown, and I just want to wish all of you back home the best of luck in South Africa with dealing with the next 3 weeks of your lives. Stay positive, obey the instructions, and together I'm sure we can overcome this corona pandemic. But just so that you all know, we are obviously fully aware of the procedures in place. We are just very lucky that we are in lockdown in a very open area. Our back garden is 53,000 hectares. So please don't for a second think that by us going out we're disrespecting any of the commands that our president has put in place. Just we're able to do this in isolation away from everyone else. So while we have this luxury of doing it, we're going to make sure that we keep on bringing this to you. So sit back in your sofas and enjoy the next few minutes of what the bush has to offer. We'll see you out there. Thank you all very much for the positive response to these videos, and also for the questions and requests that we have had. Now, Christine Ardle had asked for a baobab tree, which is one of the most iconic trees in Africa. Unfortunately for us here in the Timbavati, they are a very, very rare specimen, about as rare as cheetahs for me. They're only found on the very, very western side of the reserve. But one of the more iconic trees that we do have in our area, and one that we've been seeing quite a lot of lately on our way to Nthombi's den site, is this beautiful specimen of a nyala tree. Also known as a mashatu tree up in Botswana. Very, very abundant in the northern part of the Kruger Park. And in fact, they're actually one of the biggest trees there, getting up to almost 100 feet tall, 30 meters. This is, although an aged one, not nearly quite as big, because it's not growing in the right habitat. They normally grow in very deep soils along the riverine areas of big rivers up in the northern Kruger. Out in the southern and central parts of the Timbavati, as well as the Kruger, we only really see them growing out of termite mounds. They've got very, very characteristic bark, and almost looks like the gnarled structure of it is something that you'd expect Gollum from Lord of the Rings to be hiding in. But that is a nyala tree, named after or associated with the antelopes that we find walking around the camp. Two theories. One is because of the fruits that it produces that the nyalas like to eat. The other is because both the nyala and the nyala trees are found in the same habitats along the big rivers, and perhaps their association of use of the area led to this name. But that is our impressive nyala tree. Alright, so deja vu. We've once again arrived at Nthombi's den site. You can see the little cub sitting there in the crack as always, just watching the world. But a little bit more confident today, the most I've actually seen of the cub. And completely relaxed. We pulled in here, he watched us, didn't even flinch. He's now lying back down to sleep. But we're going to give it a minute or so. It doesn't appear as though there's any sign of mom. And as always, our ethical protocols mean that if mom's not here, we're going to have to move on. So let's just give it a minute, otherwise we'll say goodbye to these chaps again. Keep on trying. This is actually a bit of a rarity for us here in the central Timbavati, a little herd of waterbuck. And I can tell you, I see a lot more lions and leopards, and at the moment leopard cubs, than we do see waterbuck. As the name suggests, they're an animal that is very, very heavily associated with waters. Waterways, big rivers or big dams. They don't necessarily live in the water like their related cousins, the lechwe, that live in the swamps of Botswana, and the puku up in the floodplains of the Chobe and the Zambezi. But they are always very close to it. They drink about 3-4 times a day, so they seldom wander more than about a mile away from water point before returning. They are one of the large antelopes we actually have in the area, and a very standout feature that they have when they turn around, you'll see, is that white ring on their backside, which has perplexed animal behavioralists and zoologists for many, many years. And this was until they found a recent preserved carcass of one in one of the glaciers that retreated. And what they found on it, this is from about 10,000 years ago, is that there was no marking on the rear end of the waterbuck, which tells us that these markings came about very suddenly. And the theory at the moment is that they were very likely the first animals in Noah's Ark shortly after the floods, and would have been the first ones to sit in the toilet just after he painted it, and that's why they still walk around today with these white rings on their backside. I'm not so sure. I don't believe that Noah had paint back then, but it's what the scientists tell us, so we have to believe it. The same little brood of three-banded plovers that we saw the other day, Mum's been wandering around, called them, and the little chicks ran straight up to her and have now hidden under her wings. So she's just got these 4 little legs sticking out from beneath her wings. We have what should be a baker's dozen of knob-billed ducks, but I'm only counting 12 of them now. It's a little flock of juveniles that have been moving around between our water points, and there have been 13. I don't know if I'm just erroneous in my counting or not, but there are 12 of them just sitting here in this little natural pan alongside the Shaolumi. They are not their parents anymore. The mom and dad have done a fantastic job in raising them. This is probably one of the biggest clutches I've ever seen of juvenile knob-billed ducks, and yeah, they are now going to just be wandering around from water point to water point until eventually they go their own way. But for now, all the siblings are sticking together. Very cool to see. Difficult to tell you why they're knob-billed ducks, because as juveniles they're not going to have the knobs. It's only the mature males that have it, but they get this comb-like structure on their beak. Nobody's quite sure what it's there for, but no doubt has a role to play in attracting females. I've just told Brittany that we can go film some birds at Impala Dam after her efforts to film the hornbill failed. And now you see why it's called Impala Dam. We're going to have to go find a dog called Wild Dog Dam or something if this trend keeps up. Brittany has pointed out these are not just normal squirrels, these are baby squirrels. So, a question from me to you: what is the gestation period of a tree squirrel? Leave an answer in the comments below. And no cheating with Google. Come on, guys.
Where did he go?
He hit the ground. He's fine.
Where's he?
He fell from there onto the ground. I shouldn't laugh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. He's fine?
He's fine.
The baby squirrel is fine.
He's fine. He stopped holding on. The thud. So, kind of just driving around, I wouldn't say aimlessly this morning, but no one was out yesterday, so we're not sure what was around. The rain's kind of washed all the tracks away, so we're just going to go see what's out and about. And we're actually going to go try and drive some different areas. We've been so focused on trying to see the cubs for the last week or so, and having to get back to camp to do some normal work. Now that we're actually free of that, we can go and explore a little bit wider within our reserve. So we're going to be heading down to the southwestern corner this morning and seeing what's going on there. We should get some good general game, giraffes, zebras, wildebeest, which have been a bit lacking here in the central part. But yeah, let's go see what's in store for us. All right, Kathy, it's your lucky couple of days. You had your silver cluster leaves yesterday, and now the millipede request has come to fruition. Fortunate because of the conditions that we had. These millipedes tend to become very active after the rains, and as I'm saying that, he's actually listening to me, which is normally the complete opposite of what animals do. Not a particularly big one, and this is actually probably a different species from what you may have seen on previous visits. We normally see the very, very large ones, but they have the dark colored legs. This guy's got almost orange ginger legs, kind of like me. But look how incredible that motion of those legs are as they move in unison to help these guys barge through the undergrowth. Millipedes, or shongololos as they're called here, feed on the detritus, the decaying plant matter. and when you're a small creature, getting through it is not always the easiest. So these guys use those not quite 1,000 legs, probably a couple of hundred, to barge through there and get to where they have to go. He's been very obliging by not pooping on me. Typically, as a defensive mechanism, when they feel threatened, they will defecate all over you, which gets me screaming like a little child. But today, no poop, so I'm smiling. And before he does decide to change his mind, I'm going to put him down. Before he pulls the squirrel and falls off. So, as promised, some good general game starting to show itself out on this western side at the moment. They seem to have got a little bit more rain during the peak of the rainy season, so the grasses are just holding their greenness a little bit longer. So the grazing animals, the wildebeest and zebras, are spending a lot more time out in this part of the reserve. So we've got a couple of dazzles of zebra, one's moving off into the thickets, these guys still just grazing next to the road. Can't see it just yet, but there is a beautiful little foal amongst them. It's probably only a few weeks old. And there's also still one female, she's also just gone behind the bush, that is very, very pregnant. So more babies still to come. Alright, sticking with our theme of black and white striped things, just come across a porcupine quill lying on the side of the road. Now, it's quite a big one, quite a thick one. In porcupines are mammals. They just have modified hairs to make these quills, and contrary to what many people may believe, they do not have the ability to shoot the quills out, but rather they fit relatively loosely into the skin, and should any danger come, and believe it or not, there are still predators like lions and leopards that can't resist trying to go for a porcupine. Should they get too close, they will impale those quills into the predator, and when the porcupine moves away or the predator jumps away in shock of getting this impaled into it, the quill will come out, stay within the predator, and the porcupine will try its best to get away, hoping that the predator has learnt its lesson. But that is very, very sharp. You don't want to go messing with one of these guys. So welcome to some new sofa safari surroundings, unexplored territory over the last few days. And you can see what we're talking about, being a little bit more open here again. Good general game. Herdsman partners on our left. Surprisingly relaxed lone zebra standing over here. What's up, dog? Unusual for a mare to be on her own. I've got another herd of wildebeest in front of us. Just, yeah, still nice and green and nice and open out here. It's really, really nice, productive area for the plains game. The great migration of Timbavati. Not a species we see huge numbers of. They need much more selective habitat than things like impalas, for instance, or the elephants. The wildebeest are a plains game species that prefer being in these more open areas. But this is a good sized herd. And now question number 2 for the morning. If any of you have been on safari with me before, it's one of my facts I always tell about wildebeest is they are my favorite collective noun. So who of you can tell me what a group of wildebeest are called? Again, leave your answer in the comments below and let's see who gets it right. Yeah, he really is being a cooperative guy. He's about to come waltzing straight past us, but very difficult, I guess, from your computer screens to gauge just how large these animals are. You might get some perspective as he walks past me, but a fully mature male like this, he's going to be topping out at around 5.5 meters, so 17 feet. That is pretty big, and obviously has given them the title of the world's tallest animal. Despite that size, they are elegance personified. When they walk, they're just such elegant animals, and not a malicious bone in their bodies. Really, really gentle creatures. Unless, of course, it comes to fighting for mates. Then all their bones become malicious. Well, that concludes our morning drive, Timbavati Sofa Safaris. Hope you've enjoyed it. Quite a good morning out there once more. So be sure to leave a comment, make sure you answer those questions, and we will be catching up again with you tomorrow. Enjoy the day. Cheers, folks.